Hello, welcome to the Bionicle Inspiration Series. This episode is on CCBS, which stands for Character Creature Build System. Yes, it better. I did the last one I did this, it was like, and I got it wrong, so maybe I got it wrong again. If I did, But CCBS, what does it mean? What's it about? Basically, when Bionicle died, we got the new sort of Hero Factory system. The whole playing field with Bionicle changed, It became a system that very much focused on these shells and bones and had a lot of, socket and ball connections and armor that went on the top and all sorts of things like that. It allowed for a really cool new way to look at everything. And some people have debates about, you can't mix CCBS with Bionicle and blah, blah, blah. You, of course, can. And this is an episode about that. So this one actually kind of focuses a little bit on not only how to use exclusively CCBS in a Bionicle mock, but also how to use CCBS and Bionicle parts together as one in the one mock. So why don't we begin with some of the mocks that we've got today, and we're going to talk a little bit about CCBS, Character Creature Build System, or Carrots, Carnivorous Basilisk Snakes. Yep, that's actually what CCBS means. I actually spoke to Mark Stafford himself, and he actually told me. He said, my dad works for Lego. He told me. We're also getting Bionicle G7. They're actually skipping the next few generations. Can confirm. Anyway, let's begin with a mock by Balloon Nom Nom called The Velvet Ant Plague Mech. Man, I'm doing all the Plague Mech mocks. I'm reviewing all of them on the Bionicle Inspiration Series after the Plague Mock contest has ended. My bad, everyone. But still really cool, really cool mock. There's a lot of awesome CCBS stuff going on in this, and a lot of really incredible part usages. I'm probably going to do another NPU episode soon, so this is a little precursor to that. But what I love so much about this is he's used those really new CCBS sort of shell pieces on the eyes there of this guy. Now, to my knowledge, these came with the new Boba Fett. I think those are Keyed Orange. It looks like this photo has been edited slightly here, so maybe they're actually normal orange, but they look like the Keyed Orange that Boba Fett has. But it's so cool seeing those as a compound eye, bug eye thing. We have actually sort of seen something similar like that before in the Bionicle Inspiration Series, but who cares? Some of you might be like,
it's not original. I'm offended.
And you know what? If that's your opinion, you do you, boo. I ain't gonna be upset. But always really cool to recycle some ideas and see how you yourself can interpret them. Maybe you can do it one better. Maybe you can take it, make it even cooler, or you can just copy it. Because you know what? It's art, man. You can do what you want, as long as you're having fun. But yeah, I think that's a really cool design. And that's a really cool concept in general with CCBS, in my opinion, is taking some of those parts and going, you know what? No, I'm not going to use that in the traditional way. I'm going to use it in the weirdest way possible and get some of the coolest results out of it. And honestly, almost every mock in this episode does that. And then I'll tell you how it does as we progress along. But another really cool example of that is, look at the torso. It's used a Furno 3.0 head. Of course, Furno in that wave had a sort of eagle-looking mask. And by Jiminy, what the heck did I just say? Why did I say that? Anyway, my word, oh my, look at that incredible shape that creates. He's used a mask for a torso. Who'd have thought? Looks great, doesn't it? So again, really cool to do that, and that's essentially what a nice piece use is. When people say NPU on your, when they comment on your mock, it stands for nice part use. And that's definitely a nice part use. Taking a part and using it in the weirdest way, but it works so well, and it looks like it fits for that. And that's definitely a good example of this. So yeah, really cool to see that. Really cool to see people playing around with CCBS in that fashion. And one thing also that I really want to mention is these lower legs here, just on sort of the ankle bit there. That's just a straight CCBS bone. It's not even covered. You could easily put a little, little tiny shell there. You easily could, but hey, it actually works really well. So it's really cool to just sort of see how people are playing with that sort of stuff and using the CCBS bones and shells and structure as a whole, and just doing some unique stuff with it. So yeah, play around with your CCBS. See what you can do. Make a cool little bug guy, much like Balloon Nom Nom has done. Let's move on to the next mock, which is by Harry Gillian, and is called, now, he messaged me with this, and he's like, I can't wait to see you try and pronounce that name. And I was like, damn guy. But, so I'm gonna butcher this name here. Cardimius. Did I get it? Did I get it? So, I probably pronounced it wrong, and you won. But anyway. So what I really wanted to talk about with this mock is... This, in my opinion, is a really good example of how cool using CCBS shells can look on a very custom body. Now, actually, the mock that we saw before had a lot of custom elements to it, but I wanted to talk about this mock because there's a few other things I want to touch up on here too. So, yeah, it's cool to see. You kind of look at the upper legs there, and initially I was like, oh, that's just a CCBS bone, isn't it? But no, that is in fact a custom limb, and you kind of go like, oh, cool, like that looks awesome. But then you look at the lower arms there, and you go, oh, that's actually just a straight CCBS bone, and I believe the upper arms there as well. But it doesn't matter; it still looks really cool, and it's awesome to see how those two are combined together like that, isn't it? And in some fashion, like you see with the arms as a whole there, just using the straight CCBS bone pieces, you get a very nice look. It looks great, fits with the rest of the mock. But then you get a little bit more room to play with when you use some custom stuff here. You could have easily done those legs as just straight CCBS bones, and it would have worked fine. But branching out and playing with custom elements, instead of using just a traditional bone piece or something, you're able to get a little bit more creative freedom. You're able to add stuff like that sort of shin piece there, the knee piece there, with the Exoforce sort of triangle plate tile thingamajig, whatever you want to call it. And you're also even able to get sort of more of a pronounced knee by using those sort of circle pieces there to really sort of create what looks like a sort of moving kind of, not a gear, but it looks really robotic and fits with the sort of Bionicle vibe, and it looks awesome. So yeah, really, really cool to do that, to play around with custom parts and then just shove a CCBS shell on top of it, because honestly, there's such versatile parts in that factor. You're able to shape a lot around it and create a very smooth, like, whole texture throughout the whole limb or whatever it is that you're making. Whereas with Bionicle parts, sometimes it can be a little bit harder to shape and to mold. That said, it's obviously subjective depending on what part you're using, but hey, CCBS is really good for that sort of thing, in my opinion. Other people might disagree with me, but hey, everyone builds a bit differently, and that's okay. But yeah, definitely start to play around with some sort of custom underframes and then shoving CCBS on top of that, because you can get a really sweet looking mock, much like this one. Speaking of really sweet stuff on this mock, I'm going to read a quote that this guy sent me when he suggested this mock here. Bling bong, did my mic pick up that bling blong, the notification I just got on Facebook? My bad. Anyway, so this is the quote that he said. He has quite a few custom pieces and modified pieces, including simple stuff like cut axles, but also the bootleg hands, and a heavily modified Hero Factory torso for his lower torso. Obviously the biggest standout is the sword, which was cut and engraved to have my logo on a laser cutter to my design, which I made to fit the specific parts used to make the hilt. It was cut into 3 parts, the blade, and 2 smaller parts on either side. The sheath was also designed by me and cut on a laser cutter, and was designed to fit a cut axle inside it and to hold the sword to his back. So some of you might be like, custom parts, 3D printing, laser cutting, no, that's not purist, how dare you? And some of you might be like, yeah. And I'm in the camp of both, I guess. I love seeing custom stuff on mocks, I do, but there is also a small part of me, like there's this video I keep seeing on Facebook, it's the weirdest video, it's like people who aren't AFOLs, and they're like, here's how to use Lego in some creative ways to hack your life, and you watch it, and the very first image is someone getting a 2x4 plate and drilling a hole down the middle, and I'm like, oh god, what's happening? So, it's give and take, right? But honestly, when the results are this awesome on this mock, I'm all for it. Looking at this sword design, it's incredible. I didn't even realize it was custom until I had a proper look at this thing, but it looks so good. It almost sort of looks like an adaptation of Kupaka's blade, making it a bit longer, looking a lot cooler, and even being able to add his logo on there and stuff like that. Oh, isn't that cool? I believe this is his self-mark. I might be wrong there, but even if it isn't, how cool would that be to make your own custom sword and put your own personal touch on it? Like, that's just cool, man. And you always see all this sort of craziness in animes or in, people's storylines where it's like, this sword means so much to my character. It contains the soul of his father. Something cool like that. And being able to add personality in there isn't always possible with just straight purist Lego. Whereas if you introduce some custom elements and some laser printing and cutting and molding blue, then you can easily get that sort of thing. And also, too, I remember one of the coolest things about the old Bionicle movies, like Mask of Light or Web of Shadows and stuff, was when the Toho put their swords on their backs, and you're like, oh my god, that looks cool. And you're like, oh, that wasn't a play feature on the toys, but it's like, oh, that's easy. I just put an axle on the sword and they can hold it on their back. I'm like, oh, now they free up their hands. This is cool as heck. And I just love being able to see that he has a way of putting it on his back and all that sort of stuff. And that's just cool, isn't it? And it's also really interesting, like he's saying, you're like, oh, a lot of the torso is heavily modified. I've cut a bunch of axles here. And you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know that looking at it. Like looking at it, I genuinely was just like, oh yeah, this is just a custom in terms of, instead of using a CCBS shell, he's, used a whole bunch of different pieces to create, a different effect sort of thing. But I totally wouldn't have believed there were any, I would have thought this was an entirely purist mock. But turns out it's not. And isn't that cool? You're able to achieve some really unique results in that factor. So give that a go. See what you can do. Some really awesome stuff here. And it's also awesome, really, jumping over my words. It's also really cool to see how the custom parts don't really dominate the mock too much. There isn't a custom mask. The pieces aren't obviously custom. And I think that's a different way to approach it and a really cool way to look at it. So maybe give that a go. Maybe have a little think about it. And one quick thing, because I'm talking a lot about this mock, there's a bunch of photos here where it looks like his little lantern necklace thing is lighting up. And I messaged the guy and I was like, oh my goodness, how'd you do that? And he's like, yeah, I got a lot of comments with that. When I took the photos, I got a little UV torch lamp thing and just shone it on there. And so when I took the photos, it looks like it's lighting up. I'm like, oh, damn, girl, that's really clever. And yeah, isn't that interesting to be able to photograph your mocks in a manner like that can sort of allude to more story or to sort of expand upon the character in a bit more of a unique way? I think that's really cool. So why not think about that? If you're pretty good with your camera, good with your photography, why not play around with some Photoshop? Why not play around with some lighting techniques? Why not even go outside in the snow and take a really badass photo of the Bionicle standing on a rock or something like that? Could be really cool. Could really sort of say a lot about the character, and it's always awesome to see stuff like that. So yeah, maybe give that a think, maybe give that a go. So let's go on to the next mock, which is by Dylan Neves and is called Tarakava G2. So I think I've spoken about this before, using CCBS parts to revamp an old G1 set and making it into a sort of more G2 CCBS focused mock. What I love so much about this is what we were talking about before with using CCBS parts to sort of get a really, really unique thing using some nice part usages. And what I love so much is the Tarakavas had that really cool, like, punching design, like, with the little, almost like they had boxing gloves. And this really expands upon that, using some of these sort of shoulder pads that we actually saw in the last mock in red, and using them to make what really looks like a very pronounced boxing glove design. And that's so cool. And so simple. Really simple. It's just placing those two parts, putting them together, bing, bang, boom, look at what you got. How cool is that? That's so cool. Also really cool to see a very, very custom version of the sort of head of the Tarakava, which is a little bit of sort of poetic license to what the actual set looks like. But it looks so cool. It adds a whole different level of character to it, and it's just really cool. Also really interesting to see that this has a sort of little bit of a kickstand there on the side just to hold it up, and there's nothing wrong with that, Sometimes the designs that you have in mind just don't quite work with Lego, whereas if it was a, actual living being, maybe it would work so well. So why not add a stand? There's a bunch of trans clear parts. You could use those if you're sort of not too sure about it, or maybe the Rahi is a living motorcycle and actually has a kickstand. Who knows? But yeah, have a little bit to think about that. I think that's really cool, especially too. What an awesome concept to revamp your favorite Bionicle set using more updated CCBS G2 styles and pieces. Really, really cool. Awesome concept. Very well done by Dylan. Also too, not a huge amount of custom stuff in there. It is pretty much just using CCBS parts, shells, and bone pieces. Nothing that's overly custom or overly complicated. And again, that's the best way to go sometimes. You don't need to overcomplicate it. Go simple. Man, you do you. Now let's move on to the final mock, which I'm trying to find here. Where are the photos so I can talk about it? I found it. This is a mock by a Mr. What is his name? Ah, man, it's another hard to pronounce name. Zorizgian.
Zorizgian. It is Zorizgian, and it is his mock. Ugaha, version 6, and his matoran form, version 3.
Very cool. Very, very cool. What I love so much about this is nothing was cooler than the moments in the Bionicle movies where the Toa Hodika became Turaga, or when Likan became a Turaga. Spoilers, my bad, but if you haven't seen them by now, it's a 10-year-old movie, you should have. But anyway, that was always so cool, and I was like, oh, what did they look like as Matoran? What did they... Actually, we did see what they looked like as Matoran. Dang it. Well, what did Likan look like as a Matoran? It's been a while since I've seen it. Maybe we have seen Likan as a Matoran. No, I don't think we did. Besides the point. Not important. Anyway, very cool to see that. I'd love to see all the different self-mocks and really, really cool Toa that I've seen other AFOLs build. I'd love to see them as Taraga. I'd love to see them as Matoran. That would be so cool. And you know what? I reckon when I'm 80 years old and I'm still doing bits and I'm like, hey, welcome to Bionicle Inspiration Series, I'm totally going to make Kossi a Taraga at that point, because he'll be like, I'm an old guy now. I'll make Kossi a Taraga, why not? That'll be fun, right? And then all the oldies who've been like, I've been with Ben Kossi for 20 plus years now, they'll be like, I remember when Kossi was a Toa, now he's a Taraga. Anyway, this hasn't even happened yet. That's a long time from now. Let's move on to the mock. So what I love about this, again, really simple, awesome build, but still looks so good. And awesome to see some of the General Grievous parts being used there on a sort of Toa design. Really, really cool to see. Really cool to just see a tan Toa. Tan and silver, great color scheme, looks great. What I love so much about this is very similar to Umarak. He's got those sort of two horns coming out. And what's even cooler is one's a bit smaller than the other. Maybe he's been through a few battles and one of them kind of got damaged or broken or something. But that just makes him more of a badass because, he don't care. He's still gonna fight and continue, and he's got bit of damage. He's a hardened man. It's really cool. I like that a lot. And one of the things I also really like is how some people, when some of the G2 sets came out, they were a little disappointed that some of the armor pieces were printed. They were kind of like, I wish that was just in black or just purely as silver, because I don't know if I could really use that printing. But this mock uses it very well. The printing sort of has a sort of ragtag, like it's got a chain. It kind of looks like it's sort of almost a bit like Mad Max armor. Maybe not. That's the way I look at it, at least. And kind of going with the aesthetic that's on the horns there, those two sort of very much complement each other in a really unique way. So I think that's really cool. Don't sort of dismiss those parts where you go like, oh geez, I don't know how to use that. Maybe you can use it in a really unique way, and maybe you can use the printed part very nicely. Break out your stickers. I've said this before. If you have a Lego set and you didn't put the stickers on it, try and see if you can put them on a mock, because you never know. It might be something cool, even if it's like a weird caution sign. Like maybe you're building a little drone who puts like boxes away in a warehouse or something, and he's got a little caution sign on his arm, because if you piss him off when he's about to eat his mecha donut, he's gonna get mad and he's gonna press the little caution sign on his arm and activate ultra kill mode. Someone build that, please. Anyway, besides the point, we're almost at 20 minutes. I need to stop rambling. Let's go into this Matoran form. I love that the mask is a different mask. Very cool to sort of see how it's like he's progressed as he's sort of evolved and become a Toa. Also really, really cool to see that almost kind of like a hammer design there for his little staff. Really, really awesome. And really cool as well to see how the tan on him mimics how the tan looks on him in his Toa form as well. Really cool to sort of see the analogs there. And again, even cooler to see a relatively non-custom body on that, which still looks really awesome and makes a great little Matoran design there. So, that is it for the 4 mocks in today's episode. A little bit of a longer episode. I'm going to cut it down in editing, see how much I can cut it down. But, yeah, great chatting with you guys. Great to see 4 very talented builders making 4 very, very cool mocks. So get out there, use your CCBS, don't be afraid. It's not a heathen. It's just as good as regular old Bionicle. Or vice versa, use your regular Bionicle with your CCBS, see what you can do. Play around, get some cool, nice part usages, and use pieces in some weird ways you hadn't maybe thought about using them in. That's about it, guys. Be sure to check the links in the description for the mocks you saw in today's episode, and check out these builders because they're all very good guys. And be sure to check the links in the description for my social media, because there you can chuck me a message on Instagram, Flickr, or Facebook, or whatever, and you can say, hey, Ben, I'd like to see my mock in your bis. And I'll be like, hey, guy, I'm going to put it on the list. And you'll be like, hey, thanks, guy. And that'll be the end of the conversation. I mean, unless you want to keep talking, which I'm not necessarily against talking, but I'm a busy man. Sometimes I can't always reply instantly. Anyway... this is the rambling episode. Anyway, thanks for watching. Happy building. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys. I know I'm almost at 19 minutes, but I wanted to put an Easter egg at the end. I have a question. If I recorded myself doing an audiobook of an old Bionicle book of some kind, I don't know which one yet, would you be down? Comment in the comments below.